Stocks drift lower but are off the day's low ahead of the weekend after heady gains on Thursday. Consumer durables and oil and gas eke out gains, but IT realty drag mid-caps relatively outperform. Avenue Supermar on DMart sees sales reports Q3 sales ahead of estimates, fueled by higher than expected stock count addition. The stock surges, but some analysts remain wary of the quick commerce challenges. Nykaa's beauty business CEO Anchit Nair tells CNBC-TV18 that a key revelation from their consumer trend report is the increased knowledge and sophistication of consumers. He also points to an easing of competitive pressure and a focus on faster deliveries in line with quick commerce trends. Crude surges as holidays return, driving up the demand even as U.S. inventories dip. Optimism around the pickup in Chinese economy will also support the prices. Bitcoin eats 16th birthday today. The price has skyrocketed from just 80 cents in 2010 to hitting $100,000 mark in 2024. Going ahead, acceptance is only likely to rise, with the US expected to bring in friendly regulatory policies under Trump 2.0. Hello, good afternoon. You've tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18 and I'm Vinny Motiwala. A quick look at what the market is doing this afternoon. While it started on that bit of an optimism front, or at least a slight bit of a green we saw at one point of time, barely for a few seconds, but then we saw a fall coming in and now the market has again started seeing a bit of a recovery. 24,000 is what the Nifty is managing to hold on to today. 0.3% of decline right now is what we're seeing coming in for the Nifty 50. Other than that, let's pull up the broader markets. That's where the outperformance today is coming in from. So when you look at the Nifty Midcap and the small cap, they are managing to hold on to some bit of that positive side right now. Nifty Midcap 0.04% of gain that we're seeing. Small cap holding on to 0.3 to 0.4% of gain. Now in terms of sector performance today, what's holding on to strong gains is the Nifty Media and PSU banks. Nifty PSU Bank is a sector that is holding on to strong gains of more than 1%. What's not doing well in terms of sectors? We have Nifty Pharma that's under pressure today. So Nifty Pharma is down almost 1%. Nifty IT, that also, let's watch out for that because that's also down almost 1% on trade. So yes, that's what we're looking at in terms of the market as of now. You know, a bit of a subduedness, at least in the broader benchmark indices, is what we're seeing, while the outperformance continues in terms of the broader markets. Individual names like ONGC, Tata Motors and IndusInd Bank in the Nifty, keep an eye out on that. They're seeing strong momentum and strong gains coming in today's trading session. But let's move on and get the show started and talk about a stock that's in focus, and especially two-wheeler side is what we'll focus on. Now, Moto is among the top losers today in the Nifty 50, and this is on the back of a weak December sales numbers that come in. Reema is joining with us to give us a breakdown in terms of what were the numbers looking like. Reema?
Thanks so much for that. So, two-wheelers clearly are under pressure. If you remember, even Bajaj Auto's numbers were disappointing, and now you've got MotoCorp, and these are stocks which have been under pressure. Both Hero and Bajaj are down 30% from their recent peak levels. Now coming to MotoCorp's December sales numbers. Total sales are down 18%, worse than the CNBC-TV18 poll, which predicted a 5% drop. Domestic sales is the problem. Domestic sales have dragged by 22%, partly cushioned by the 90% rise in exports. So exports has been strong for two-wheelers across the board, but domestic sales is a problem. So just putting up, all the domestic sales numbers across for the two-wheelers. Bajaj domestic sales were down 15%. For MotoCorp, it was down 22%. For TVS Motors, it was flat, but again, their total sales were up 7%, but that up was purely on account of exports. Domestic hasn't contributed. Premium is doing very well. So Eicher Motors, sizzled with its December sales numbers, 25% jump. Exports, as I said, has been very robust. So Bajaj, TVS, Moto, all clocking in very strong export growth numbers. And the electrification trend continues. EVs are now about 6.1% of the overall sales versus 5% in FY24. And the pole position, the market leader, is now Bajaj Auto with a 25% market share, followed by TVS Motors, and Ola Electric is in third place. Back to you.
Thanks so much for that, Reema. So yes, surely the two-wheeler vehicle space was not looking exciting today, but what's doing well today is the retail side, and specifically we have Avenue Supermar that's buzzing away in trade after its Q3 FY25 update that we saw coming in. The stock at one point of time was up as much as 13%, as of now also holding on to gains of 12% approximately in trade. Now when you look at the numbers this time, Q3 FY25 update, they have managed to see a good growth of around 17% during this quarter. Last time it was around a 14% growth. So the pace of growth that has seen an improvement coming in terms of revenue growth. Store addition, last quarter they'd added 6 stores, this time they've added 10 stores. So an improvement in terms of store addition as well. On the back of that, we have brokerage notes that have come out with some highlights on that front. Now we have CLSA maintaining the outperform rating, target price of 5,360 rupees. They said that yes, the sales growth is improving. They spoke about the store growth also seeing a pickup in terms of momentum versus last quarter. So they continue to hold and maintain the outperform rating. On the flip side, we have Citi, who is maintaining a sell rating, target price of 3,500 rupees per share. Now they're highlighting some concerns as in terms of the adverse product mix. Has that continued? Because they believe that is something that could continue even in this quarter. So margins is something that they would be keeping an eye out on. Competitive intensity from quick commerce players, as well as in terms of overall the P multiple for Avenue seems to be bit more on the higher side, so that is what they want to watch out for, so a bit cautious on that front. Similarly, even Goldman Sachs is cautious given the competition in quick commerce space, so they maintain the sell, target price of 3,425 rupees, and Morgan Stanley continues to maintain the underweight rating, though highlighting that this time the Q3 FY25 update was above the estimate, but they will be cautious in terms of the outlook, which is going to be going forward for the company. So Avenue Supermar as of now holding on to very strong gains of 11.5%, and with that we had VMart as well as V2 Retail also, which reported the numbers, and both of them also are managing to hold on to very good gains. So keep an eye out on that. VMart Retail actually now just slipped into the red right now, but as of now in the morning it was holding on to gains of 4%. The update was very good, so keep an eye out on those stocks as well. Let's move on, and now CNBC-TV18 has actually reviewed orders passed by the US court assigning cases filed by the SEC and the New York criminal case against the Adani Group to a single judge. Parikshit is joining in with us to give us more details of this one. Parikshit, good afternoon.
Well, we have been following this case closely, and we know that there are 2 cases that have been filed in the United States against Gautam Adani and others for alleged bribery of Indian government officials, state government officials, in connection with a effort to secure solar power contracts. And they have been charged for misrepresentation and bribery in the United States because in a way they have misled US investors. Now, what has happened is that a US court has assigned now all the cases in this matter to a single judge. The cases have not been combined, but now will all be heard by a single judge for judicial efficiency. The court has also noted that all the cases arise from similar allegations and from the same transaction of events. So they have been assigned to one US district judge who will be hearing the matter, and he will be looking at both the SEC case, which leads to market developments and market violations, and the criminal case which had been filed at the Eastern District of New York Court, now which was a criminal case against Gautam Adani and others, where their imprisonment and warrants were also issued. So let's see what happens in this case. Adani Green Energy is at the center of these allegations for paying $265 million in bribes to Indian officials. Now, this is as per the US DOJ. The Adani Group has refuted all these allegations, saying that the Adani Group or Gautam Adani and his associates have not been charged for corruption or under the US Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, but they have been accused of securities and wire fraud and misrepresentation by the US court. So what happens now is that all the cases are moving to a single judge, and this could speed up the manner in which these cases are taken up in the months to come.
Okay, Parikshit, thank you so much for that. On that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. But up next, today marks the 16 years since cryptocurrency Bitcoin was launched. And we get you more on the currency's journey ever since it started on the other side. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Business Lunch on CNBC TV18. Moving on, we spoke to Mark Mobius, chairman of Mobius Emerging Opportunities Fund. And what he said is he's confident of India's growth story and says that the country stands to benefit under Trump. He's also positive about the business environment under the new Republican dispensations. So listen in to what more he had to say.
I think going forward, you're going to see a very good market in India. And India, I believe, is going to benefit from the Trump administration simply because, first of all, the Trump administration will not favor the Chinese market. And if you look at the global picture, where else can investors go overseas? Where are the best places? And India comes up all the time because of the incredible growth of the country, because of the reforms that are taking place under the current government, and simply because there's so much value in the market, companies with very high return on capital, etc. So I'm continuing to be optimistic about India generally. Well, first of all, I would look at export-oriented companies to begin with because of the currency situation, and also simply because India is gradually becoming more and more competitive against the Chinese export. But those companies that are exporting, let's say Infosys that exports a lot of software, they are going to become more competitive because of the weakening rupee. So I think you've got to look at many of these stocks that have a US dollar income component will continue to do very, very good. Trump is going to lower taxes. Secondly, he's going to cut out a lot of the bureaucracy and a lot of the paperwork, a lot of the impediments to doing business in America. This is going to be very, very good, not only for American industry, but for foreign industries. Because you must remember, if you cut out a lot of this bureaucracy, it'll be easier for Indian companies to do business in America.
Let's move on. And quick commerce platform Blinket has launched a 10-minute ambulance service in Gurugram. In a post on social media platform X, the company's CEO, Albinder, said that the company has launched 5 ambulances starting last evening. An image attached to the post mentioned that the service will be available at a flat rate of Rs 2,000. Each ambulance will have a paramedic, an assistant and a trained driver. And let's move on. And earlier we spoke to Nykaa Beauty's Executive Director and CEO Anchit Nair on the company's 2025 plans and how quick commerce boom is expanding to India's smaller cities and towns. Listen in.
The growth in tier 2, tier 3 towns. So, some of our highest ticket sizes are now coming from cities like Faridabad and Ludhiana and Chandigarh. And we've been big proponents in building beauty for all of India, and not just focusing on a couple of key metros, but really taking beauty to every city and town in the country. So if you look at it, we even opened 50 plus stores in 36 cities this year, taking our total store count to over 220. Price war has been getting better. I would say that, India is a tale of two markets. Of course, there are value-sensitive consumers, there are price-sensitive consumers, but there are also consumers who are looking for what we say as high-quality products at the right price.
And let's move on. It's a special day for cryptocurrency Bitcoin, as today marks the 16th year since it was launched, and 2024 has been a phenomenal year for the cryptocurrency, where it crossed record highs of $100,000. Manisha is joining in with us to bring us how the world of cryptocurrencies evolved in 2024 and what to expect in the new year.
2024 became a landmark year for cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin smashed through $100,000 mark to hit all-time highs at $108,000, surging 130%. The crypto market cap also hit a record highs of $3.9 trillion. The year 2024 started on a very high note with launch of Bitcoin ETFs, which gave an easy access to individuals and institutional investors without the complexities of wallets and private keys, accumulating more than $110 billion of inflows. Ethereum did not lag too far behind, with ETF inflows above $2.7 billion, making its place in decentralized finance. Well, the institutional investors now own 20% of all Bitcoin ETFs traded in US, and then it was Bitcoin halving, an event that happens every 4 years. It leads to reduction in the block rewards by 50%, lowering the supply of Bitcoins. And then it also was about rally taking wings after the US President-elect Donald Trump's pro-crypto stance. He has pledged to make US the crypto capital of the world. He also suggested that the US Bitcoin reserve could be a possibility, and there was also a discussion of using Bitcoin as potential tool to repay the US debt. Trump also has nominated Paul Atkins, who's a known crypto advocate, to succeed Gary Gensler as the US SEC chair, which the crypto bulls have totally cheered, expecting favorable regulations going forward. Well, then you had the Russian President Vladimir Putin also recently saying that no one can prohibit Bitcoin, showing support for cryptocurrencies. The approach from Poland, Italy, and even China showed signs of revisiting previous critical policies. And then, after El Salvador, countries like Tonga, Paraguay, and Panama are now considering adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender. Well, the cryptos also are taking support from wider adoption of real-world assets. Stablecoins are emerging as payment tools for enterprise businesses. The year 2024 also had its share of frauds, hags, and rug pulls. The sector lost nearly $2.3 billion in 2024 in frauds, which clearly is lower than the last year, but nonetheless a big amount. The names that went through these issues were WazirX, Radiant Capital, DMM Bitcoin, among many others. While the Bitcoin grabbed all the spotlight, altcoins also delivered significant returns. Tokens like Solana, Ethereum, Ripple, Cardano have all hit all-time highs in this year, while lesser-known altcoins like Palm AI, Mantra surged anywhere between 10,000 to 20,000%. Well, in the past year, meme coin market capital also was in favor. Market capital hit $113 billion, led by Dogecoin and Shiba Inu as per CoinGecko data. 2025 shows a lot of promise for cryptocurrencies and also blockchain as a technology. The markets have put even higher targets for Bitcoin for 2025, with Standard Chartered and Bernstein expecting $200,000 for Bitcoin. MicroStrategy expects Bitcoin to rise 29% per annum for the next 21 years. But remember, it's a volatile space with significant risks. With so much unknown about projecting its future returns, it's always pays to be cautious.
Thank you so much for that, Manisha. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. Up next, we'll get you all the latest updates from the New Orleans attack in the US. Stay tuned in for that on the other side. Thanks for staying tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC TV18. Now, let's move on, and more details are emerging from the New Year's Day attack in New Orleans as the U.S. federal investigation continues. NBC's Alice Barr is joining in with us to give us those details.
As investigators reveal new details about two stunning acts of violence on New Year's Day, President Biden meeting with his Homeland Security team after addressing the nation last night about the man who plowed his car through New Orleans' crowded Bourbon Street, killing at least 14 people in an apparent terrorist attack before police shot and killed him.
He posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill.
The FBI identified the driver as 42-year-old Shamsu Din Jabbar. They believe he acted alone and are tracing how the U.S. citizen from Texas, an Army veteran who served at Afghanistan, could have become radicalized.
He was 100% inspired by ISIS, and so we're digging through more of the social media, more interviews.
Federal investigators do not believe the attack is linked to a Tesla Cybertruck explosion hours later outside the Las Vegas Trump Hotel. 7 bystanders had minor injuries and 1 person died inside the truck. The FBI is awaiting DNA confirmation, but the driver is believed to be 37-year-old Matthew Allen Livelsberger, a decorated active-duty U.S. Army soldier in the elite Special Forces unit. Investigators found a military ID, a passport, and 2 guns in the truck. They say the driver appears to have shot himself in the head before the explosion. Like the New Orleans attacker, he also served in Afghanistan and at the North Carolina Army base, formerly known as Fort Bragg. So far, no evidence they ever crossed paths.
We have no record that they served in the same unit or even at the same years.
Investigators say there were fuel canisters and large fireworks in the Cybertruck when it exploded. They believe Livelsberger drove to Vegas from Colorado and are now searching a home there. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And reacting to the New Orleans attack, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has launched scathing attack on the outgoing President Joe Biden, blaming open borders policy for the rise in violent crimes in the country. He adds the radical Islamic terrorism will only get worse in the country and criticized FBI, Department of Justice and Democrats for not carrying out their duties in protecting the nation. Okay, and with that, we're absolutely out of time in this edition of Business Lunch on CNBC TV 18. Thank you so much for tuning in. Up next, your Midcap Radar.